All right, so I want to talk about movement as a team. And to start, I'm just going to talk about the basics again of what we're trying to accomplish when we move. So let's say you're the ogre, and you are engaging against some guys, and for whatever reason, you want to move over here. Okay, so you have this shield. So you have the shield. So you're probably not going to want to turn and then walk and then turn, right? I mean, you're going to, this is obvious, and any player who has a shield in front of them does it automatically because it's just second nature. You're going to strafe, right? So that's because your front side has protection, your backside does not, right? Either do the sides very well. So yeah, you mean you're just going to keep your face to the enemy. So that's strafing, and this doesn't make any difference. And then another type of strafing, right? If you're way down here, you're going to move and rotate, right? This is called a rotate, or rotate and strafe. Yeah, and so that seems pretty straightforward, I think. So none of this should be any different if you're a team. So just like you, one person would keep their shield in front, you keep your tank in front. So if you're here and your ultimate goal is that you would like to get over here or kind of rotate that way, yeah, you're going to keep your shield in front of you. So what does that require? I'm gonna show that, I think a lot of it, what we end up doing every single time, and yes, every single time. Shit, did I lose all my things here? Okay, so what we want to do every time is we want to have this feel where if we want to move up to the top right corner, we do this, and we have our people, our squishies, follow them in. Okay, right, and and then this guy does this, and then this guy shoots us. So this, as obvious as the first example was, keep in mind with one, that's the equivalent of doing this, right? We're facing them. We turn our tanks this way. We run, and then we rotate back. And what's happening is when we do this, this archer here is effing us up, and this guy's running behind us like this. And so as obvious as the first example was, we need to do this. We're not actually doing that at all, ever. I haven't seen us make one proper movement yet. I've seen so many failed, and I would say 90% of them end in the example where we want to do this. So how do we correct that? Well, I think it has a little bit more to do with you're not following a tank. You're keeping the tank is interfering. So what I'm going to do is, in most examples, we're going to have a tank and an off tank. I think maybe I'll make so we got a small tank, big tank. Like that. Okay, and then we got our DPS, and we'll add a squishy healer. What we want to do is let's say we're down here fighting, and we want to move again to the top right. The tank is not going to run in front, followed by whomever. Okay, the tank is going to be the shield, and actually, the tank has less distance to travel than the other people, so they have to move. They have to move faster. technically, because so let's say, all right, so here's second 1, and I'll move each person. So second 2, the tank is here because they're going to interfere with the back line. So notice the DPS and the squishy have more distance to run. They need to move quicker, and they need to move with more purpose. So they need to be over here, and that takes longer to run. Whoops, I deleted my healer. Right? And they want to get behind them. And the tank's going to run interference, and if it's running into a room that could be dangerous, it can't be the tank necessarily, the main tank that runs into that room first, and because they kind of need to keep this space. And so an off tank is a good thing to do with this. So one thing you can do is have your off tank, if you really need it, push in first, and this and this. And so this is, and I keep deleting them, I'm just going to use the DPS. But so in part 2, you should be here, right? And notice that this tank's only moved like this, not very far, and it's probably Reinhardt, and he probably has a shield and he's bouncing. He's trying to move fast to the side, but the DPS need to beat him to their location, and maybe even the off tank. But they need to run this distance, okay? So if you look at these lines and who needs to cover their distance, are you kidding? So if you look at those lines and who needs to cover distance, I'm just going to add this guy. Really, he's a giant to represent their team and their direction. And, okay. So, and then you have your tank and your team starting here. And what the balls? Okay, so tank and your team and the distance they have to travel. The tank really is traveling here. The DPS is doing this, okay? Because ultimately, right, we want to end. Here, okay, or here, or wherever we're trying to move to. Okay, so this is kind of a it's kind of a rotate and strafe. And so if the DPS don't move, this move takes a long time, so they need to fast, and while this tank is holding this. Okay, now let me go and do just a few quick map examples. Welcome to King's Row. So a pretty common maneuver you're going to see, just a super common maneuver. It's an easy maneuver here, and I want to open this with something interesting. No, shit. There we go. So we gotta, so let's say that we want to go around the statue here. This is super common. You're gonna see, we'll do it. Other teams will do it, and you get, as opposed to fighting this direction, you get this statue cover, and you're also a little more flexible because you own this side of the map, which means you can use the platforms and come in from multiple directions. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna be an ogre today, because so if you came in, he's going to be blocking this direction, and then he wants to rotate around to here. And so just looking at where we start, we want to start, now I'm going to get rid of the ogre. I'm going to just do so we are trying to push in this choke. I'm starting to hate this program right now. We're trying to push in this choke here, so we got a shield, and we've got some people representing our DPS behind them. I lost my tank. All right. So we don't want to, one thing we don't want to do, oh my God. So we want to start here, right? So that enemy fire is coming in this direction and it's not affecting our DPS. And we want to end, this is fine, I'll just leave them. We want to end up here. And our tank wants to end here. Okay, so we got our moves, and the one thing we don't want to do in the middle, at no time do we want to be in, so let me draw. Okay, red is, so that's position 2. We want to get to position 2. We're going to start at the green. This is position 1. And we never, however we do this, we never ever want to be in this position where the tank is moving first and then so you don't want to be in the position where the DPS is here and the tank's here. All right, so yellow. Okay, that position in the middle is not how we want to end up at any moment in time. If you take a snapshot, if someone's spectating and they took a still shot, at any point we should never look like that. If that makes sense there. Don't look like this, right? Because now these guys, especially because most teams play up close, this guy's super vulnerable, and you know that's representing 3 people if you think about it, probably some DPS and probably a healer stuck in there, so they're just going to get trashed. So that's the idea, right? You want to rotate. This is a rotate and strafe around the statue. Rotate and strafe. We're moving our boat sideways, and we're rotating a tiny bit so that, you know, our angle, so we're deflecting across. Right? At first we don't want to hit this, and second we don't want to hit this. We don't really want to be able to sneak up behind us, so there shouldn't ever be a behind. If we took a freeze frame of the moment, if you let's see if I can get a clear one. If you took a freeze frame moment in time of the middle, how we're moving, someone took a snapshot mid-move, we haven't made it to the other side of the statue, but we have also got started, so we started moving, and someone took a picture somewhere in there. You know, at any given point, the picture should look like something like this. Okay, so our tank he's kind of hiding, but what he's really doing is making sure he's keeping this space here so that there's no chance. There isn't anything. These people can't run in because they'd have to run right past the tank and come around and attack these guys. And then anybody who's up here or just prepared, they can't shoot into here without hitting the tank, and they also can't surprise run around here without running past the tank. You see that DPS, there's nothing you can do. You're going to have to deal with that tank if you want to get to that DPS, where, you know, we have been in the past, if you took freeze frames, we'd look a lot like this, okay? And it's only maybe 5 seconds. I want to say it's probably only 2 seconds that we make the mistake, but it's usually a bit longer. And we're getting, this happens a lot, right? We're getting overrun there. All right, so on Anubis, all right, so we're on Anubis here, and we would like to make the move of going into the short, up into the halls, 3rd level, coming around on the ledge. Okay, and then of course we are just making the assumption, because it's a good assumption, that we're dealing with some ranged fire. Up here, and we got a tank up here. Okay, and they're gonna shoot us. All right, so what have we done every single time we have tried this? We end up with a picture I could take that looks like this. These are stairs. The tank's going up those stairs right after coming out the short. Right before, so they're going up the staircase, and I did mention, I mentioned this example in the first video. Okay, and then we got a DPS here, and put a healer here. So here's this is our formation in the moment of time. Now it feels like, you know, we're running up these stairs, so, you know, I know the feeling is this is the front, but just remember that our formation doesn't care about the motion of time. It only cares about snapshots that a spectator would be taking. And right now, a spectator, if he didn't know where we're moving, we don't get to see which direction people are moving. Pretend you don't get to know which way people are facing. And even if you looked at way people are facing, our DPS are facing this way in this terrible example. They're trying to take down picks. And right now, I talked about in the beginning the risk and the reward, and I talked about how bad the reward is, or how bad the risk is here with all these minuses. Not stairs again, but keep in mind it's even worse, because what do these guys have to do? So you're this archer. What are you doing right now? Well, you can't see the whole team over here. All you can see is there's this Hanzo standing in the open. That's it. That's all you see. What possible thing is this guy gonna do except focus all his attention and arrows on him? And he's perfectly secure. You're not gonna kill the guy. This tank's got to make some decisions. This tank in the ogre tank, he's got some decisions to make. And what does he see? I mean, if I'm this tank, what am I gonna do? I'm just gonna charge. Why not? Probably gonna charge. If I'm Reinhardt, I'm literally gonna hit charge and just dive in there, because I don't have to worry about running through the team and dying. I just can take him out, and I can go back here. I can use all here. And this tank represents about 3 heavy hitters, and this archer represents about 3 heavy hitters. So I'm not talking. I mean, you have 6 people who have nothing to do except shoot a Hanzo, standing in no cover, just fighting this way. And this is the moment of time, and this has happened more than once, and that's just, you know, that's not, can't be how we move. So again, how should this go down? I'll finish up here with, you know, the example of how this should go down. Okay, so we're going to do that move again. And we're tanking the choke. He's back behind the choke. And Reinhardt moves forward to take away that space right there. If there's any close, this way, if no one's going to run through Reinhardt, DPS then are going to move immediately, very quickly, and they're going to move into the short and out the short and up the stairs. And Reinhardt is going to choose to do one of these. He's going to follow immediately, but he's always going to stay behind him. And where this is how you do it. Now, let's say we're worried about, yeah, so really the DPS, they're going to see the Reinhardt's going to take space somehow. You hold up a shield. DPS have to move. They don't have time to do anything else. They're going to run into the short and they're going to charge up here. Now in the unconventional instance that someone is here, okay, someone's over there, and again, especially in most of the places we move, we're not expecting people to be because that's kind of the standard. But there's some instances this is good because this archer's out of position, so we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You know, there's 2 things happening here. We have 2 tanks, right? And we also have, let's see, realistically, we have at least 2 DPS. Okay, so the main tank is going to take the space away, and then you can send your off tank in if you're really worried about something. If someone is standing in the short, you can go in. But even if you didn't, even if you couldn't, the off tank is really, he's warped in space-time because I can't do anything with this scenario. And you really couldn't. I mean, you're still charging in as, you know, there's this, right? And you're still creating a huge mismatch and advantage. Tanks coming in, and we're all pretty tight. I mean, this formation should be tight, right? Yeah, I mean, just kill him. I mean, trample him. You should be able to take him down. If there's a bunch of people up there, then we probably aren't going left. We're probably going around the right. It might have been a bad call, or, find some other way to do it. But especially on Anubis, this is known. You're never going to have the whole team standing on the stairs there because that's weird. So hopefully that makes sense. That's rotating. That's strafing. It's simple concept, but we're just not doing it literally 100% of the time, I think. And so we just need to work on it. So keep those in mind and try to freeze frame every instance of a game and say, look, if someone took a snapshot, what's our formation right now? Where am I? Am I in trouble? Am I using the tank space, right? Because what if instead of a tank, you just could create a space? You could literally create a box in the universe somewhere that no one was allowed to go through. Well, you could then theoretically just play with DPS, right? And you could just play with your DPS people. Back here, because you don't really have to worry, because you have a magic power to create a space that enemies can't get through. So you don't have to worry about Reinhardt. You don't have to worry about anyone coming in, and now you can just fight a good battle. You can move all around, and while you're moving up there, you can say, oh, I'm going to create this space. And now you're just blocked. You're creating your own. And that's what we mean by creating space with a tank. That's what you're doing. A tank's job is to be the space that no one's going to run through here if Reinhardt's standing in the middle. That's goofy. And yeah, so that's about it. I'll leave it at that for lesson 3.